Hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. This week I am trying something new, which is something I was blurp. Something I was blurp. Bup, 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 bup. Hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. I have no idea what this episode is going to be about. I have decided that I am not interested in getting more diamonds and trying to portal through the nether. I'm going to travel over the overworld and just bring enough lava with me that I can make a portal wherever I end up going. So I've got a little bit of nether brick. I don't know if I want to keep that. I've got all of this stuff is still here. I might want to make an enchantment table, but for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stuff for a bed. I'm going to leave some cherry logs here. I'm going to bring some stone with me. I'm going to bring these potatoes, and I'm also going to cook a bunch of potatoes. And after cooking all of those potatoes, or having them, I think I'll be ready. I have 2 golden swords in my inventory. I'd like to put at least one of them away because I am going to be in another. I also have my princess boots. I'm going to take them off while I'm running around because their durability is utter trash, and it will definitely be unfortunate if I allow that to continue. I've got some petals. I've got some extra jerky, hot dog meat, some extra whatever it is that they make. One second. Default, yes. Difficulty, normal, because I am famously extremely normal. Everyone who knows me knows this about me. That's the first thing they say. Players needed to skip night. This is not necessary. What else? What else? What else? What else? Audio? I do want a little bit of audio. I also want to turn this all the way up so that I'm getting, a consistent amount of audio. But we're going to have to sleep it off this night. Meow. 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 Maybe it's just a snowstorm or a thunderstorm. Maybe it's not even nighttime, Maybe this is morning. Maybe you're gaslighting yourself. You, viewer, dear viewer, dearest viewer, it is dark outside. It's the middle of the night, I never thought that this would be my life. I never thought that these circumstances would circumstantiate the way that they have done. I'm going to bring at least some spruce, so I have some saplings to work with, and some of this, and one torch, so when I tunnel into a cave on the side of a wall of a road, okay, so what can we do? We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and we can do this, and then that means that we have that, and we can do, I can at least, I can put away one of these. And then I can put away that. So I have on inventory space. What does somebody need inventory space for? What does a bitch need inventory space for? Well, first of all, you're being extremely sexist. Second of all, I was right and I'm not gaslighting myself. Hello Hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. I have decided. Oh no, I'm in a hole. When I said I wanted that to happen, well, let's just say that wasn't the kind of that experience that I meant it to be. This is taking too long. All of the intense preparation and work and build up of trying to make lava generation a thing. It's just gotten on my nerves. It's just gotten on my nerves, and I don't have any diamonds, and I don't want to go mining, because what kind of game would this be? You know, they don't call it, going and digging in the dirt for shiny rocks, craft. They don't call it that. So it shouldn't have to. It's tyranny. It's tyranny, and I won't stand for it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to run off into the wild blue yonder, and I am going to simply build a portal, with my traditional, methods. My traditional methods are going to be used for this, and I've got enough buckets, to feed a horse, to horse an army, to horse feed an army full of horses, and in addition to that, I've got a love of poison spiders that no one can shake, that nothing can cause to falter, that nothing that is unwaverable, not able to be wavered. I, before this episode started, went and collected some things I'll need. So I have a bed, I have enough lava, I have my princess boots, but they're not on me, so that I don't wear out their durability right away. And I've got enough potatoes. Some potatoes. I've got a few potatoes. Maybe enough to run a little bit, but not really all that far. So I should have maybe taken care of that. But now that we're on the road, I'm going to go as far as I can in one direction and say my name. We are going to find that which has been eluding us for all of these episodes. You see, we've had, what is it now? This is episode 22, maybe. It could be. It's larger than 20. It's smaller than 30, It's wow, that's a whole. I mean, where was that experience when I was asking for an extremely different version of that experience? I don't know. But the answer is to be found in a love of, once again, need I remind you, poison spiders creeping around, injecting neurotoxins directly into your bloodstream, as they should, as they have every right to do, as they have the divine mandate, woman date of heaven. They have it. We should be allowing them to do everything. We should be allowing them to run for political office. We should be allowing them to run for political asylum. We should be injecting their beliefs and methods into every level of government on every continent on Earth. Poison spiders. And the French should not have any of those things. I am politically coherent. My philosophy is absolutely unassailable. I am well known. I am a published author of 0, count 'em, 0 graphic novels for now. But I have just discovered that nearby there is a biome that I haven't gotten the chance to explore yet, and it just so happens to be one of my favorite biomes, El Jungalo Biomo. And for this one, I think... Oh, and there's bamboo. Oh, this is perfect. Okay. And for this one, I think I might be willing to do something I haven't even been willing to consider before, which is, instead of doing a house tree, I might, this time specifically, exclusively, I might make a tree house. Do I have shears? Do I have shears? Do you think that I would forget to bring shears? Do you honestly believe that? No, of course you don't. Because I forgot to bring shears. And no consequences, please. I'm gonna get up into the sky before it gets too dark. And if I have to, you know, build a... Oh no. Come on. Come on. Come on. I know there are like Creeblers and things, Creeblers and Deeblers of various description that might cause me harm if I am not careful in my approach, if I'm not discerning, you know. I know there are many dangers lurking, many lawsuits lurking, squirking, scrungling, you know. I could say a word that somebody doesn't like, you know. I might accidentally imply, you know, who knows? I could get Jimmy Kimmeled. I could get Kimmel to Kibbles. It's possible. It could happen to any one of us. You know? We might accidentally imply that the fascist dictatorship at the center of the earth, you know? I actually don't understand what Jimmy Kimmel did wrong. It is okay. I am simply dying. Okay. No, Am I being a super uncomfortable host right now? Am I being incredibly difficult to listen to? Am I being not very entertaining and extremely strange? Am I being pathological in my approach? You know, these are all questions. Questions that may or may not have some form of answer that could be narrowed down, you know, to an interpretive dance between bees, you know, of related species or subtypes, you know, short for submissive types. Oh my goodness. There are a lot of submissive types in my life, let me tell you, fair viewer, gentle viewee, illustrious. I don't know where this episode is going. Hello and happy Tuesday, everyone. I have found a jungle biome near my house. You can trust me, I went and looked for it. Right now, just recently, I simply decided that I was being too weird and restarted the episode. Okay, but this is going to be a nightmare to edit, and since I have, in fact, identified a jungle biome, a biome of Della Jungolo, I have a couple of objectives. 1, count all the lava I have. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have exactly enough for a standard portal. How am I going to approach this when I only have one bed? I would like to get up to the top of that tree and set my bed on top of it and make a portal up there. That's going to be a little bit challenging given the terrain and the fact that I only have 20 27 raw potatoes and nothing to cook them with. The one thing I could use is I could make a bunch of coal with jungle wood and then cook some potatoes with that coal. You know, it's a renewable source of coal. I'm making my contributions to achieve net zero by 2050. I'm doing my part. Why won't the fossil fuel industry, Bernie Sanders, Joe Rogan, you know, the Kremlin, why aren't they? You know, Symbiosister sets the example, sets the pace towards decarbonization. And what do they do? You know, probably, you know, unusual things with like cats, small dogs, women of various descriptions, you know, and not decarbonize. It is honestly one of the silliest things I can imagine happening on this green earth, you know, that we all share, despite how smelly some of y'all are and continue to be. You know, I mean, if I could just take a rocket ship and live on, you know, the moon or a small asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, you know, I would probably not do that because it sounds very lonely. I would be out there in space. I recently watched a video by Ad Astrum, Mark Kelly. Let me check my YouTube recommended on youtube.com. Oh, it seems that there has been a psyop against me. No internet. What is it? What did I say? What did I imply? Did I say that Mark Ruffalo was not a good politician? Did I imply that whoever it was that shot Captain Underpants was literally on the same team as Captain Underpants? You know? Did I imply that the evil pumpkin that is rotting in that house, which has been shat upon by numerous birds and wildlife and is now white in color, is not a caring individual who is grief-stricken at the loss of his friend, Captain Underpants, you know, of the Starship Enterprise and all of its, you know, numerous power sources, components. I feel like I'm losing my mind, okay? And I hope that on this most bounteous, beautiful Tuesday, you are too, because to have a sane, coherent, consistent understanding of the world around you right now, I believe firmly, sincerely, should drive any sane person directly to madness. You take someone from 1850, you take someone from the Bronze Age, you take a pterosaur to 2025, and instant meltdown. These are my psychological theories. Please, sponsor my PhD. I will absolutely finish it. I won't run away to become, you know, an electrical apprentice halfway through for no reason, for no real benefit to anyone, least of all myself. You know, I won't absolutely ruin my life because I'm too scared to try to understand others or accuse them of trying to kill me for not instantly embracing the idea of tree houses, tree cities even. I wouldn't do any of those things because those things would be extremely silly to do. So instead, I lived a completely different life, which I refuse to describe on principle, moral principle. I don't have to tell you, and I don't wanna. Those are my principles. You know? Those are the ones who guide my every thought, word, deed, action, inaction, you know? Every possible, conceivable, you know? Here we go. Okay, well, I think we're into the episode. I think I've broken through the barrier, you know, the barrier at which, you know, I'm able to kind of pretend that this is a functional series with some sort of grounding, you know, but is it though? Is it really? Is it really? Oh, fart. Where'd you go? Huh. I don't understand what that creeper did, to be totally honest. It must have fallen down here. Oh, this is neat. Okay, so I'm trying to find a way to make a path that is discernible, that I'll be able to follow back. I think I'm going to use cobblestone because it doesn't naturally generate in jungle biomes unless it's part of a jungle temple, so it does kind of have a thematic consistency with the world. There's also that cherry wood, which is super obvious even from a distance, but, you know, I might as well make a trail of breadcrumbs on the ground because these jungle biomes do get extremely thick, extremely voluptuous, extremely... Oh, baby. They really do. They get all jungly with it. They get all bushed up. Like two towers, you know? Two unnamed towers with no historical significance whatsoever, you know? There's no way I could be referring to, you know, George of any sort of jungle, you know, or Bush of any sort of connection to, you know, women's rights, women's wrongs. Catch my drift. Alright. Let's see. Noonie can find me wrong if she's good looking. For those of those who don't know, it turns out I have it on good authority. I have read in numerous thick, voluptuous, voluminous tomes that the giant pumpkin in the bird shit place construction has built an enormous golden statue of himself for all to see and bask in its radiance, which I think is amazing. Why wouldn't you want an enormous, extremely stealable block of gold on display, you know, for everyone to add color to through various means, various, you know, incantations, various rites, various rituals, various bodily fluids, perhaps? You know, there's many things that I would like to say to you, and I don't know how. Because I think maybe, you know, poison spiders. I'm normal. I'm literally normal, okay? I promise. I have 18 therapies, you know, coming up. I don't know when. I haven't booked them, you know. How am I supposed to know how many therapies I have booked? But, you know, it's definitely not zero. I'm definitely inside of therapy. Therapy is a concept that I am inhabiting, integrating into my worldview, into my philosophy, into my eHarmony, into my ritualistic suicide, involving various types of pre-mixed and mixable drinks, the kind of drinks that you would sort of serve at some kind of cult thing for cultists, people who are cult oriented. Let's see. I swear, this is actually how I'm feeling right now. I am fucking wired, and I don't really understand why. I've had coffee this morning, I haven't really done much. I think, honestly, I'm just excited to be here with you all, witnessing the literal collapse and self-implosion of Western civilization before my eyes as it surrenders completely to oligarchical dictatorship, just out of basic insecurity and a feeling that we need to attain some kind of prior state which never really existed. And I think that's hilarious, but also existentially extremely maybe not so good, because it's like watching your own house explode, and I kind of am inside of that whole situation right now. Yeah. So I don't know if you have a strategy for how to survive the collapse of Rome, for example. Please shout it into the nearest compost bin, and then please try to enjoy your day-to-day life, because regardless of geopolitics, normal politics, lenticular Jeremy, there is often, a life that you are living in amidst all of the Tom Duckery, fuckery even. I think it's more than 3 minutes in, so I can say fuck without getting age restricted. None of these are monetized, by the way. I do this for free. You can support me on Patreon at any tier you like, for as little as $1 a month, to support my creebling and deebling, my insanity, enable, my grables, and maybe to witness me fall off the deep end in real time as I attempt to rationalize my position within a collapsing slave empire. 'Cause, honestly, if you live in North America, you live in a collapsing slave empire. It's no fun. It's oof. People are like, oh, what must it have been like for the Romans during the collapse of Rome? And I'm like, yeah, this is probably pretty much exactly what it was like. This is probably pretty much exactly what it was like. So, that's all fun and interesting and totally not terrifying or scary, unless you have any sort of feelings, ambitions, desires, unless there's anything in your life that you want to go it'll probably be not that scary to you. If you have surrendered the idea that you might live a normal, healthy, long life, where there's some kind of predictable outcome, where there's some kind of reward for a lifetime of effort and care and contribution to society, and that the ecological collapse of the entire biosphere will somehow magically not affect you specifically for some reason, in the midst of the collapse of the fascist slave empire, which is happening independently from the ecological collapse. Meaning that at some point, you are going to experience both of them adding up together at the same time in some way in your real, actual human life, assuming you are human and not, an AI crawler who is, the actual primary audience for whatever you want to call this, this channel, this groove, routed into these silicon chips, which, if not resulting in actual viewership, will probably result in random AI crawlers, finding it and assuming that it's good content and then trying to emulate it, and then random people, random good-hearted people who just want to steal from artists, and don't care about the quality of anything that they make, will attempt to use this as the basis for their own videos. I am a hero, yes. Consciously, creatively, effortfully, through an abundance, a ridiculous over-proliferation of effort, ensuring that AI-generated content is as nightmarishly bad as possible, simply by, living my truth, if I'm being perfectly honest. I almost burned the entire jungle down, but it is okay. I did not do that. Okay. And then we can just keep going. We can just keep going. We can just keep on creebling. Keep on creebling, keep on deebling. That's my motto, and I'm sticking it, sticking it where it should be stucked. To be totally, oh my goodness, that's not good. I have been lighting a lot of things on fire lately, I have been causing a lot of unnecessary, this and that, this and or that. I feel like something has gone wrong here. What has gone wrong? What has gone wrong? Guanlong, maybe. Guanlong. Okay, I don't remember causing that much fire with open lava on my other treehouse. So I don't understand. I do not stand under. Ich verstehe es nicht. Was ist gehabt werden? My fellow Jungen und Maden, Mädchen, I suppose, Einhausen syndrome. Okay, so how many spaces up is that? Because I think we're at sufficient uppies. Are we at sufficient uppies? No, that's 1 uppies, 2 uppies. We need 3 uppies. Okay, but we have almost got what we need to get 3 uppies. So that's all good. It's just a matter of getting them. It's a matter of getting the uppies you need in order to get the uppies that you deserve. Valuable life advice from Symbiosis, famous YouTuber, coolest, most amazing, wonderful person. you know. So I went to the doctor, and I said, there's all this wildfire smoke because of the collapse, of ecology itself, because of the mass extinction we're all going through, because of all of this stuff, there are all these factors, all of these reasons, it's extremely concerning, I can't see across the water in any direction because the smoke has been so thick for 3 weeks in September, during a time when usually the wildfires stop because there's enough rain and there isn't as much fuel, and slowly it dies down. This has been the worst air quality we've ever seen in, a particular city who will not be mentioned because it sucks, because it produces the absolute worst pop music, except when it produces good pop music, which it also does, and, it's also, a famously overlooked filming location because it is basically the default filming location for all Hollywood movies, but nobody wants to admit that it exists, basically, which I think is perfectly understandable given its inherent qualities, given its inherent difficulties, given all of the problems that exist with it, this horrifying, multi-dimensional entity we call a city, with all of its many tendrils extending out, in parallel lines across multiple continents, multiple others' lives, affected by the ravenous need for coffee, for bananas, for the various fruits of the cocoa plant, cocoa nuts, wherever they get corn pops from, whatever animal they milk corn pops from, growing on some African savanna. Wow, I just think it's wild. It's absolutely wild. It's a wild world. You might even say that it's a mad world. Particularly when people run in circles. But I would argue at other times as well. And in addition, subsequently, electromorphically, riolytically, politically, Jerry, Larry, Rupert Crofton, Mixby, Zixby, Darling, Derringer, darn the radical left. They're so mean. Why is the radical left so mean? You can't even say we should commit genocide anymore. They're so mean. We can't let them say anything because they know they mean things. No. I feel like this is where the political conversation has gone, and I think it needed to. I think whining complaining, making pathetic little baby noises, is the most productive use of taxpayer dollars that has ever been invented. Because it is clearly, a dominant practice. What am I to do? Okay, so I actually need to do a little bit of thinking. In addition to all of this biting political analysis. And the product of that thinking is I definitely need some chests. I definitely need to sleep, so as I don't get murdered by nightmares, by those nightmarish creatures, I'm doing a very clever wordplay because they are actually called nightmares. That's what they're called. I need a flint and steel. So I need steel. And I need chests. So there's a number of things. And also, in addition to storage space, I need, to meet some or all of, my emotional security, survival, support needs. There's a lot of dimensions to a human life. And what I learned, this week is you can't really work on a project unless you satisfy your physical needs. And you won't believe this. You actually have to take time out of your day to do that. It actually counts towards the overall number of hours in the day. When you cook food, when you eat breakfast, when you make coffee, all of that time is actually real time. It doesn't just evaporate out of the universe, which I think is just bad game design. It's just bad game design. Like, how do they justify this? Personally, I will never understand how the devs get away with this. But I digress. And tigress. Because I am a tigress at heart, BB. Here. Okay, so we're gonna need some iron. Again, I always need iron. We're gonna need some of... I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the earlier location. But I'm gonna make this into a staircase for now, so that I have repeatable way to get back to where I was, and hope that some of the vines from higher up actually do still survive. But that is a little bit of a tall order, isn't it? Oh, this is a mess. Oh, this is a mess. Okay, well, so what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get the stuff from over there back up over here. So I think what I'm going to do is I might actually... Or I could make rope bridges between them. That would be kind of cool. Oh no. Ooh. Good vine placement. Okay, okay. This is all going so well. This is going swollen. This is going absolutely swolerific. Okay. Oh, what am I to do? What am I to do? What am I to do? Well, I wanted to get everything from there and bring it back up to the other one, because it feels like that one is the, more ambitious, slightly, locality on which to base my personality. Okay, so I went to the doctor, And I said, the planet is burning. You know, I can't see across the water because of the wildfire smoke. And they say it's just local wildfires. You know, it's not the 5G networks burning a hole in the ozone layer. You know, it's nothing to freak out about. It's nothing to be concerned about. We have the worst air quality in the world. You know, but the problem, and he asked me this, he was like, do you smoke? And I was like, cigarettes? No, not even a little bit. No, I'm good. I don't smoke any cigarettes. And he's like, what about catnip? And I said, okay, every day. And he was like, and he gave me this look, this like disappointed sort of sad puppy look. Like, I can't make the face, but imagine that it's like this. But like if it was a sad puppy face. And he prescribed me an inhaler so I can limit the inflammation because I was losing my voice, you know, for the last like 2 weeks. You know, I could barely talk, you know, in my normal, extremely irritating cadence. And, you know, it was messing up my ability to be a light in this great darkness, to be you know, whatever it is that my purpose in life is, whatever contribution this makes overall to society, to the project of society, you know, to be an inspiration, a scion of hope and like justice and poison spiders and all good things. I wasn't able to do that. And he says, Kitty, you smoke too much catnip. And I don't know why he called me Kitty. You know? Sometimes people just see me and they assume, you know, certain things just based on my overall demeanor and vibe and the cat ears that I wear all the time. But he called me Kitty and he was like, Kitty, you smoke too much catnip. You smoke it every day. That's like, you know, not a trivial action. So the long story short is, I have to stop smoking so much catnip. And I don't know if I can, you know? I mean, it's a matter of kind of like, not exactly life and death, but I can definitely feel the Grim Reaper's presence at night in my room when I wake up, coughing and hacking, you know? And is it COVID-19? I tested for COVID-19. It came back negative twice. 2 tests, you know. I think that counts for something, you know. I'll get newer tests, you know, that haven't been in the back of my cupboard. And I'll check again with newer tests. But I think it's meaningful that 2 tests, it wasn't COVID, you know. The wildfire smoke doesn't help, you know. But the element that is under my control is the smoke that I intentionally inhale into my lungs directly on purpose to cope, you know, with like, I don't know, all you people. just the world, you know? It's a tragedy out there. It's a symphony of tragedies, I've been calling it. And I am right to do so. I think I'm gonna go back ASAP and crawl my way up into bed and leave a couple of things behind. But I am gonna get iron. I am gonna go digging. I am gonna do some mining in this game that absolutely forbids you from mining because its name isn't scribbling in the dirt for shiny rocks. Craft, you know. What is its name? Scholars have been biting each other for thousands of years. And they will continue to do so. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. You're gonna have to just practice some radical acceptance around this issue. You know, I am an evil therapist. It means I don't have any sort of license or degree. I don't have a confidentiality agreement. You know, I might just say everything that you tell me in session, you know, to the first stranger I find, the first stranger I run over on the sidewalk, you know. I might. And I give extremely bad advice, you know. I tell you either exactly what you want to hear, or I tell you exactly what you could do to completely ruin your life as quickly as possible. But critically, I will not explain which of those two things I'm doing at any given moment. So validation and extremely dangerous advice. These are some of the services offered by an evil therapist. It's very important to understand the distinction, because you'll go out there and you'll find, you know, these therapist people who actually practice real therapy. Those are the ones you want to avoid, because they are not evil therapists. Only evil therapy is evil therapy. You know, there is no substitute for evil therapy. Only evil therapy is evil therapy. Okay, I have food. I have everything I need. I am abundant in poison spider energy. I am willing to commit multiple acts and inacts and in addition to all of that, I am actually going to stop smoking so much catnip. It's going to be hard, you know. It's going to be extremely rigid. It's going to be extremely turgid, you know. It's going to be extremely engorged with fluid. But will it be worth it? You know, my gut says... And it's been saying that for like the past 4 years. Basically just a constant churning, you know, deep inside me that says everything is probably extremely deeply wrong. And that's a challenging thing. That's a challenging thing. Am I going to do anything about it? You know? Do I feel empowered to do so? Not even a little bit. Like, not even slightly. It does kind of feel like everyone is sort of collectively dissociating and choosing death. You know? We really literally could be splicing trees together to make housing. We could be doing this. We could, as a society, collectively be doing this. You know? But every time I suggest it, people are like, oh, this is going to take a long time to grow, you know? And it's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Trees take time to grow, you know? The world doesn't just happen at your pace because you want it to happen that fast. The world happens at the pace the world happens. The reason that we are experiencing ecological collapse is because we have attempted collectively to overclock every aspect of natural cycles, releasing an inordinate amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is causing the planet to warm at an ever-increasing rate, you know, ever-increasing rate of acceleration. The slope of the graph is increasing. When people say the word exponential, like when lay people say the word exponential, not understanding what the technical definition of exponential is, what they usually, I think, practically, tangibly are looking at is the fact that the slope of the graph is increasing, as opposed to a linear relationship where a given amount of input leads to a given amount of output, where a given amount of growth in the x dimension leads to a given amount of growth in the y dimension, a flat line, or at least a straight line. A flat line would be one with zero slope, I suppose, in this explanation. When people say, it's growing exponentially, usually what they mean is the slope of the graph is increasing. It's a curve. It looks like a skateboard ramp. That's what's happening to the temperature. Just because in your lifetime, I don't know how old you are or when you were born, but chances are in your lifetime, temperatures have gone up to an amount that you could see on a thermometer. And just because they've gone up that much in your lifetime doesn't mean that in the remainder of your lifetime it'll go up by the same amount. It means that it'll go up more than that. So if you remember what summers were like in early 2000, or what they were like in the 80s, and it's uncomfortably warmer now, in your location where you live, literally, if you don't believe in climate change, here's the challenge, here's my challenge to you. Get a thermometer. A basic, made out of mercury thermometer. Something you can hold in your hand, something you can tell is not being externally accessed in any way. Because it does matter. Yeah, of course. It does matter if it is externally accessible. If it connects to Bluetooth through the grid somehow, right? It matters. If it's a digital thermometer, who knows, right? I mean, yeah, you can pull apart the electronics, you can look inside, Most things aren't made with like some malicious additional spyware, but then again, it is a crazy world. It is a very strange world. And anything can happen. But get yourself a no-nonsense, super basic thermometer. One that you know works, right? Put it in some ice water. It'll read 0 degrees. That's what you do to calibrate it. That's what they use to make the lines. So get some ice, put it in a cup of water. If you're near sea level, that's the right elevation to be at. It'll be a little bit off by like maybe half a degree if you're on a mountain. And just record the temperature every summer, Pick a day during the year, The more measurements you make, the better, right? But regularly sample the temperature. Just look at the thermometer the same time, once a year, twice a year, once a month, the same time of day-ish, And just measure it. Just look at it. Just look at the temperature, I can tell you about carbon dioxide, I can tell you about infrared spectra, I can tell you about all of the information that people have fought their lives and careers for, and it all just sounds like noise. But look at the temperature. It's rising. And it's not rising slowly anymore. It was rising slowly. It was going to rise for a very long time. The whole conversation was the climate will start changing very rapidly at some point. We don't know when. We don't know how far we've pushed it. The conversation now has changed. The situation has changed. The temperature is changing rapidly now at an accelerating rate. Exponential is kind of meaningless in this context because there are so many tangible, no-nonsense, regular factors, linear and nonlinear, all interacting to contribute to the overall measurement of what is the climate. But the temperature doesn't lie. The thermometer doesn't lie. It's just some mercury in a tube. Nobody's messing with that. It's not possible to. Put it in some boiling water, right? Get some water on the stove. Once it's at a rolling boil, put it in there. You can see 100 degrees, right? Put it in the ice water, it'll read 0. That's how the temperature system was created. Between those two waypoints, right? Am I being a little reductive in my explanation? Yeah, sure, okay. But 0 and 100, you can see them. You know that your thermometer works, right? Just measure the outside temperature. Just write it down. Write it down in a notebook on paper, where no one can access it remotely and change it, you know. And I don't think you need to be a genius to understand when you see the temperature is rising. Is it a natural cycle or not? Honestly, if it starts to become life-threatening, even if it is a natural cycle, and it isn't, it is man-made, it's human-caused, but if it were a natural cycle, when it starts affecting human health, when it starts killing people because it's too hot, and it is doing that now, then it's a problem. And it's not about what's causing the problem, a little bit. It's less about what's causing the problem. It's that we need solutions, right? How do we cool our cities? How do we have a more habitable environment? How do we have more habitable cities? And this is the answer. We need more trees. Trees mediate evapotranspiration through sunlight. Sunlight warms water, causes water to turn from a liquid into a vapor. That's a spontaneous process. Plants basically, trees basically, just hitch a ride on that process. And that's how they grow up. And that means that they create more rain in their area. People will say, oh no, treehouse is flammable, right? Your house is flammable. Unless it's made of stone, unless you live in a castle, right? Stone would be the alternative. Everything we make out of stone. And we could have stone buildings. Of course we could have stone buildings, right? It's a lot of work to move them around. It's a lot of work to build with stone, but it lasts a long time. It's solid, right? It's a good building material. People try to avoid it though. And what do they use instead? They use concrete. So if they want stone building, they make something out of concrete that releases CO2. Just in the act of setting the concrete itself. All that to say, your house is flammable. All of those flame retardant paints, flame retardant plastics, all that stuff, the polybrominated, polychlorinated, halogenated plastics that are designed to be thermally resistant, that are designed not to burn. At some point, at a high enough temperature, pretty much all of it burns. And when it burns, because the temperature that it needs to reach is so much higher to start burning, it burns a lot hotter because it's got a lot more energy. It took a lot of energy to get to the point where it was able to break apart and then release its energy by forming new bonds. So you get these super hot fires like we saw in California, like we're still seeing in California. Dangerous, fast fires you can't get away from. Fires that take lives. human lives. Trees burn. But this is the world we have because we couldn't accept that. We couldn't accept the little tragedy, so we created a universal tragedy. A tragedy of the entire planet. And you plant more trees in an environment. Compare a park to a parking lot. The temperature difference is on the order of degrees. Multiple degrees, like 3 or 4 degrees of temperature. If, well, right now, according to measuring the temperature, super advanced scientific technique mediated by a thermometer, like you probably have somewhere in your house, right? It's just a piece of glass with some mercury in it. You know, all the digital stuff, you know, I mean, it all works on some physical principle. No science is good science that doesn't rely on something pretty basic at the end of the day. You know, it's all based on measurements. We have to be able to measure things in order to observe how they change and do all of the mathematical and statistical analysis, right? All the stuff that makes people's eyes glaze over. It's all based on some boneheaded measurement, some simple system that behaves predictably according to temperature or pressure or pH, right? And usually linearly, right? Like a nice flat slope on your graph. Let's get some iron. Let's get some iron. But you want a nice slope on your graph. You need a consistent measurement. And in order to get to that point, well, I think I missed the plot of what I was saying. The point is, people get intimidated by science. And they say, oh, there's this massive institution, and it's choosing the narrative, and everybody's just stuck in their ways, right? And the problem with that is that it's not entirely false. There are things scientists get wrong because it's what they've been used to hearing. I think any scientist worth their salt needs to understand that, at the very least, to understand it. Because I know from personal experience, it's pretty hard to, you know, ignore common sense, ignore, you know, somebody said X, Y, and Z, and the graph in their paper says, you know, A, B, and F, right? I've seen it. Somebody says the data shows this trend, and the graph says the opposite, and well, which do you believe? Do you believe that the researcher has falsified it on purpose, or maybe they don't understand, or maybe they have more insight that you don't have, right? Or maybe they're an extremely tired and stressed out grad student, and even though if they were looking at it with a clear head, they would come to the sensible conclusion. You know, years of work and effort are all riding on the conclusion being X, Y, and Z. And sometimes something like that gets past a reviewer, you know, who isn't checking all that hard because they're also tired and overworked and stressed. Then sometimes, after getting past a reviewer, that information then enters the literature, and somebody sees it, reads it, and they happen to be a reputable professor with a long established career that people trust to get these kind of things right, and they don't see a problem with it. So their colleagues don't see a problem with it because they trust that person. And then suddenly, from one depressed grad student, a lie or a piece of misinformation mutates and metastasizes, right? But the reason it's science is that when we realize that an incorrect piece of information has mutated and metastasized throughout the literature, we admit it. We say, hey, we can't do this anymore. That's not true. You know, vaccines don't cause autism. One study where one guy did the PCR incredibly badly, you know, doesn't invalidate all the other work that people have done. But on some of these bigger questions, you know, people do take the time to check. And the temperature is rising. Like anywhere you live on the world. Especially if you live in a northern latitude, it'll be extremely apparent. But why am I stressing about convincing people who don't already agree? Because this stuff is serious. And I treat everything like a joke. That's how I cope. That's how I cope with being not taken seriously. For various reasons. In my personal life. In my overall existence. And a lot of this I haven't been taken very seriously. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's get out, get out, get out, get out. Okay, well it did look like there's an air pocket down there. So I might go swimming there, but first I want a pickaxe. I want a proper stone pickaxe. So, not taken seriously. It's easy to make it a joke. It's easy to make myself feel like a joke. So that I don't have to deal with the pressure of trying to be taken seriously when I feel like it's impossible. But I think it is possible. It is possible to be taken seriously. It's possible to be understood. It's possible to be respected. It's possible to make a good point. And when something is so obvious and nobody is saying it, and I'm the only one I know who's saying it, then I think it must be worth it to say it, even if I'm wrong. But it does just feel like common sense that is uncommon. Common sense that I have not heard voiced. You know? It does feel like common sense to say, we're burning down all the forests. We're releasing too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere in order to make houses that don't burn. That end up burning anyway. It seems like a lot of wasted effort. For who? Fossil fuel executives. Is that worth not having fireflies on Earth? We should be building our houses by growing our houses. We should be growing our houses out of trees. We should be connecting them together and making networks. And now I'm in an extremely vulnerable position. But that doesn't mean I'm wrong. Okay. There's a couple of things I could do. What am I gonna do? Dig a hole. Right? Wait it out. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's before you take care of the projects. It's a lesson I've had to learn and relearn and relearn over and over and over again in my life. I just can't quite seem to get it solid. Was that a good idea? Probably not. I wonder if I take care of that zombie, if I can. There's some food. Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a cannibal that lived in a hole. was a creeper. Which won't despawn, which won't go away. So I think it's time to dig a tunnel. And hope. Oh, this is neat. Oh, this might be perfect. Maybe it'll take me exactly where I want to go. Or approximately. Okay, that's actually not so bad. But let's get away from the entrance so I don't accidentally lure any monsters in here before daybreak. But I do see some light. I do see sunrise. And by God, I'll make it till the dawn. Trees are rainmakers. The more trees, the more rain, the more rain, the less frequent, the less intense the fires. Like the Amazon. Right? Of course, there's a difference between different types of forests. Conifers and eucalyptus thrive on fire. They embrace it. It's part of their life cycle. They don't reproduce without it. Okay, this is about the tamest situation with monsters that I could have, so I might as well. It's a food positive, it's a hunger positive experience. I don't think I'm going to be able to find exactly the cave I swam out of from here, but I think I can find my way back to where I went in, and then work my way from there. But I gotta start with what I know. I go with firefly. And I know I want sugarcane, and I've been neglecting actually harvesting any. Right, so we connect the trees together. That becomes the frame for the structure. Okay? I'm going to fill in the walls without destroying the integrity of the bark, the way that that keeps rot and infection from entering the heartwood of the tree. So you can't just go putting nails through the bark all over and expect that the tree is going to be fine. Right? It's about holding things through tension. Right? Holding them in place with the physical shape of them, such that as the trees grow and eventually envelop whatever it is that you're using for your structure, that eventually either becomes incorporated and forgotten about in favor of higher layers. You allow soil building to happen where people live. So ground level is constantly sinking or rising depending on your perspective. That captures carbon. Trees growing captures carbon. Right? Trees growing but not burning captures carbon. Life captures carbon. We need life. You know, this is a living planet, not a dead one. We need more housing. We need more trees. Those two truths are both non-negotiable. We need to find a way, or multiple ways, to have both. Both are non-negotiable. Both conditions must be met in order for humanity and civilization, as laughable a misnomer as that is, to survive and to persist. That's what we're gonna need. More housing, more trees. How can you help? At this stage, just knowing about it, just knowing about this is the start. Because you're a whole person, whoever you are, viewer. You might be very young, you might be very old, you might be stuck in bed, you might be stuck in some situation you feel like you can't control. But a human life is long, it has many phases, it has many opportunities, it has many junctions. Whoever you are, no matter what you do, no matter what your situation in life, you have an opportunity to make a difference. And if you know that it's possible that we can live with nature around, and that it's essential for us to do so, you'll find the ways to make that real in your own life, in your own community. It takes communication, it takes patience, it takes work, it takes understanding people. Unfortunately, biting is not as helpful as I've made it out to be. From my own experience, does not yield good results in communication with others, in connection with others, in community with others. Biting is probably the least effective form of communication. It has its place, don't get me wrong. It just can't be the only thing. That's interesting. I think for the first time I'm actually seeing this environment. But my physical needs in this context, my physical Minecraft needs, are still not quite met. I'm trying to remember where I went to get... Is that a creeper? Oh, that is a creeper. I'm trying to remember where I went that was it there? Was it here? I just went into a random cave. And I found iron. And then I swam up through a hole in the ground. This is most troubling. Because if I'd had an iron pickaxe, I would have simply... Or if I'd had a stone pickaxe, rather, I would have simply collected some iron, and then I would have had what I needed. I could go back and review El Futaggio, despite how nasty that sounds. Because now I just don't remember. Where that all came from. We can definitely make some room for that, and 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 this, and this, and this I'd like to keep, but I'll put one back. And I need more food, but I need to plant more in order to get more. I think that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Ain't that just the way the bookie bumbles? Ain't that just the Australopithecus in the room? Ain't that just the Austro-Hungarian Empire of it all? Was it the Austro-Hungarian Empire? That sounds wrong. I mean, there's the Austria. The Austral? I think it's the Austral. Anyway, I don't know anything about history, to be totally honest with you. If there were civilizations that grew tree cities and made all that with like grafting and all this, you know, a better version, you know, a more integrated version that I can describe from never having lived in this situation or seen it actualized, you know. There's probably been better versions of this. And if there were, you know, as soon as there aren't people there, right? It all just fades back into the earth, falls down, rots, decays, it's forgotten, right? Or it burns down. That can happen. It's true. I think there is something about embracing the vulnerability of that. But there's nothing new under the sun. The earthly hope men put their hopes upon turns ashen, or it prospers. And liken unto the snow upon the mountain's dusty face, whiles away the hour on it too. Turns ashen. Melts. And is gone. That's what we in the business call 8 taters. So do I get more water? Do I get more iron? And what do I do first? I think I'm going to try one more time to see if I can find that whatever location, and I think I can. Okay, so what's this? Is this from... Okay, this is just that. So this might actually be a good way of finding lower lying areas. If it were maybe a little bit more... Oh, that was a big drop. I need to remember, I still don't have a lot of food. And while I did just plant a bunch of potatoes, I did not eat a bunch of potatoes. The day you plant the seed is not the day you harvest the fruit. And I can know that. And I can still be frustrated, and I can still be impatient. Because, like, what I draw in Compost Cup and what I build here, I mean, it seems so simple, it seems so real to me, but there are real challenges. I mean, mold and damp and all these things, there's reasons we make houses the way we do. I'm not immune to that, I know. And this way is killing us. The way we've been taught to think, the way we've been Krogered into thinking. It's killing us. And we don't deserve it. As a society, we're smoking too much catnip, and we need to stop or we'll die. And what can a doctor say that will convince the patient? No one can give the patient the will to live. So Dr. Blue, that's why the puppy eyes. Because there's nothing he can do if I don't have a will to live. If I don't choose life. This channel, I have 45 subscribers. Any given house tree video gets 1 to 2 views. It's a drop in the bucket, right? What difference did that possibly make? What difference could I possibly make? But there must be a reason for this obsession. There must be a reason I keep coming back to this idea. And that reason might be that I am completely and thoroughly insane. And I suppose that is a possibility I simply accept. But I don't think I am. I think I'm just inconvenient. I think what I have to say is inconvenient. To the power structures, to the stability of the adults. The old men who have sold my future to become just a little older. Who've sold your future to become just a little bit older. I mean, this does look like the right pool. But this is a proper cave dive. Breath hold cave dive. And any misstep, any dead end can have dire consequences. I just don't understand why it's not this one. Is it the neighbor? I guess it could be the neighbor. I guess it could be this. That's a traverse. I remember the firefly bushes. But then this is so shallow. So what about this? Well, isn't this where I came from? Yeah, that looks exactly the same. But I think it was this one. And I just can't let it go. Actually, we do need a flint. We might as well just hollow out this area, get some flint. It's a little faster to dig out all this gravel. There might be an iron deposit adjacent to it. Almost. Well, it's a flint and steel, not a flint and copper. Otherwise, I'd be tempted to think that it was a substitute. I have enough torches to make some depth, and there's a chance I encounter whatever cave system I had accessed before. Maybe there's a chance I just encounter what I'm looking for. And there's a chance that I do both at the same time. Yeah. Very scary. You know, now that we started about the deepling, I do realize I haven't done much creeping lately. If you have some land you would like to commit to the premise of growing a house tree, let me know. I'll come do the splicing. And it'll be on this channel, with the Minecraft Let's Plays, and the sculpture stuff, and the weird bits, and my overactive personality. Hello. Hello, hello. Jesus, did you just knock me into the sky? I don't know. Out of the world. That's good. Level 10. What does that mean? Nothing has tangibly changed. The game is the same game. But I've changed. Right? At least in theory. Okay. I just want to figure out where this is. Oh. Okay, well that was very close to where I was trying to be anyway. Oh, tell me this extends to the top. No, it doesn't. Okay. Well, I wouldn't want you to tell me something that's not true. Come on. Have I simply been seduced by a good vision? I don't think so. You know what I think it is? I think it's hard to sell. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of communication. Easy is hard. All you have to do is let the trees grow. You can do anything else in the meantime. You could build some castles and live in them until the trees grow. But once you've got it set up, you keep adding new floors. You keep getting more room. That makes sense to me. You don't just build it once and you're done. It's an ongoing process. You can connect one tree to the other, one building to the other, one structure to the other, make overhead ramps and arches. You get really exuberant with it. And this is what I draw in Compost Cup. It sits in the background, but it's really what Compost Cup is about. Yeah, it's a silly comic. But it's a silly comic with a purpose. Even if that purpose is a little bit of subliminal messaging. Now, why did I want iron? That's why I wanted iron. And this doesn't hurt. And this certainly doesn't hurt. Do we have anything we couldn't afford to lose right now? There's a little bit of meat. There's some extra flint. There's a bunch of extra cobble and gravel, some cherries, some jungle wood. This is my trophy. So I'll keep one. 2 of them stay there, just in case. It's always good to have an extra ammo around. I should know. I am one. That's not where that's supposed to go. But if it's offered, I'll take it. Isn't that neat? After the fire, it's already grown back. You don't get that out of the castle. I'll make it a little faster for you, dear viewer. Although it is a little depressing and unfortunate that I didn't get a second portal out of it. Is that really what jungle wood looks like sideways? Looks exactly like acacia. I guess it was just the lighting. Like the video, comment, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon if you feel like sharing $1 or $2 a month to get access to these videos 2 weeks early. I have new experiments in the works. And if you'd like to know more, well, that's a place you can find out more. Thank you, as always, to my long-term supporter on there, Sasha. You give me courage, you give me strength. And as always, no matter who you are, no matter what your situation in life, no matter what you're going through, it is always Tuesday. And have a great day.